Welcome back, everybody, to the 214-215 podcast. I am Zekrom.
And I am salty.
So it's a very special episode. First of all, this is the first week in the podcast history that both the Cowboys and Eagles won. And secondly, we have our first guest, Jacob, who is a Broncos fan. Jacob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yo, I'm Jacob. I like the Broncos, and I'm here because the Broncos play the Cowboys this week.
Yep. We thought it would be cool to have our friend who supports the Broncos on the podcast since they're playing one of our teams. And throughout the season, we might include more of our friends if we play them. So first, let's go into the Cowboys section. All right. So the Cowboys are 3-3-1 this year. They just came off a 44-22 victory over the divisional rival, the Washington Commanders. There was some positives. There's a lot of positives to take from this game. Now, let's be clear that the Washington Commanders are not a very good team. They also have a lot of injuries right now, but that does not mean that that Cowboys fans should not be excited about some things that have happened during the game. So the Cowboys offense in 3 home games has scored 40 points each time, and they have gone 4 straight games without turning the ball over, which is franchise record. And it's not like they're just doing it against bad teams. They've done it against the Packers and the Eagles. Well, they didn't score a lot of points versus the Eagles, but they were moving the ball pretty well, and they didn't score as many points off their own mistakes. But they've been doing it well. They've been doing it well against all kinds of defenses. They haven't really had a bad game in terms of moving the ball. They've had like the game versus the Bears where they only scored 14 points, but they were moving the ball throughout, and they just had untimely turnovers. Dak Prescott had another great game. In his last 4 games, he's thrown at least 3 touchdowns and has not thrown a pick, and only 5 other quarterbacks have done that in NFL history. He is currently the only quarterback who is top 5 in completion percentage, yards, and touchdowns. And I've been pushing it all season. I think the MV Prescott agenda is alive and well. I think if the Cowboys can get to 10 wins, I think that there's a realistic chance that Dak Prescott could find himself in the finalist category. Another good thing that happened was Devontae Williams had a great bounce back performance. Last game against the Panthers, he had only 2.2 yards per carry. This week, he had over 100 yards. And for the season, he is second in the league, and he is third in the league in touchdowns. So I think there was a little bit of concern from some people that maybe he was starting to slow down, but that is not the case, as he had a pretty good performance against the run. And the Commanders actually have a pretty solid run defense that we were able to exploit. Another great positive from the game was that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are the duo is at full strength now with CeeDee Lamb back, and CeeDee had an instant impact on the game. In every game that he has started and finished, he has had over 100 yards. His first game back, he caught a 74-yard touchdown that really gave us momentum in the first quarter. Pickens, his production, as expected, went down with CeeDee Lamb taking targets, but his impact was still clear. He had a big 44-yard catch before halftime that allowed us to get some points before half and ship momentum back to us. And one thing that has been kind of underrated about him is that his ability to draw defensive pass interference calls. He's gotten 4 pass interference calls for him, and they've all led to touchdowns for the Cowboys. He by far leads the league in DPI calls and DPI yards. So even if he's not catching the ball, if you just throw it up to him, there's a good chance you're either going to catch it or you're going to get some big yards on a defensive pass interference call. Another thing that happened today was that Jake Ferguson had another multi-touchdown game, which gives him 6 in the last 4 games. So he's shown to be a really good red zone target for Prescott. But one thing about him that's kind of funny is he's only averaging 6.5 yards per reception, and that's 43 out of 44 tight ends. He currently is on pace for over 120 catches, but he's also on pace to not even break 900 yards. The offense overall obviously had a good game when he scored 44 points. One thing that impressive was right before halftime, where I mentioned where George Pickens had that catch. So, but the play before that, there was like 30 seconds left in the half, and the Cowboys took a sack on the first play of the drive. And the Commanders had just scored. The Commanders would get the ball at half. This was a point where the Commanders could have really seized momentum in the game. And then Dak Prescott hits George Pickens for 44 yards. Williams runs for 30 yards to get them down to the two. And then Jake Ferguson catches a touchdown. So that just shows the explosiveness of this offense that they can just go off at any moment. Now, unlike last week, there actually are positives on the defensive end. Now, like I mentioned, the Commanders had significant injuries on offense going into this game. They were missing both Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. But we've also played some bad offenses earlier this year, and they tried us too. So any opportunity to have a good defensive performance, I'm not going to complain about. Trayvon Diggs actually missed this game because apparently before the game he had an accident at home and got a concussion. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there. They're being pretty secretive about it, but hopefully he returns soon.
Would you attribute the Cowboys' defensive success this game? I didn't watch a lot of this game, to be completely honest. Would you attribute this more to the Cowboys' defense playing up to par, or the fact that the Commanders were so injured that they really couldn't do anything on offense, even despite the fact the Cowboys' defense has been so bad?
I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously the Commanders were really injured. They were missing Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin, which are some massive weapons. But at the same time, we did some really good things defensively. For example, Matt Eberflus, he's been really criticized this year, especially for his schemes and coverages. We've played pretty much almost exclusively zone coverage the first half of the season. The first 2 weeks, we didn't run a single man coverage defense. This week, we ran a season high of 47.5% of man coverage, and the results were pretty good. Overall, the Commanders went 5 of 15 and only 3.8 yards per attempt. So obviously, you shouldn't just play zone coverage because that's just easy to defeat. So I think that we were able to really take advantage because we have corners on this defense who specialize in man coverage. Like Deron Bland is a man corner. Trayvon Diggs, even though he didn't play, is a man corner. So I don't know why we didn't try this earlier, considering we're not playing to our defensive strengths. But we did it this week, and the results were pretty good. Next, also, we allowed over 20 points. We probably should have allowed under 20 points. They got a garbage time touchdown, which probably shouldn't have happened because of a BS pass interference call. But no point at the refs when you win by 20. And the run defense, even though we allowed 132 yards, I thought it was pretty good. Most 70 yards came on quarterback scrambles, and some of those came in later in the game where we're playing softer. We held Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who has been really efficient this year with his carries, to only 3.3 yards a carry. So a little bit of improvement on there. Some individual performances I would like to call out is Jadeveon Clowney. He had his first good game of the year. He didn't have a training camp. He just signed after week 2, so maybe it took him a while to get to form. But he had 2 pass deflections, a sack, and a fumble. According to Pro Football Focus, he was our highest graded defender. Donovan Ezaraku, our second round rookie, had a pretty good game. He's honestly, since week 4, he's really come along. He is either first or second among rookie defensive ends in defensive stops, pressures, and tackles. And he got his first sack of the year in the fourth quarter. Kenny Clark led the team with 5 pressures. That's pretty good as long as you don't look at what Micah Parsons did to Arizona. And Deron Bland got another pick six against Washington. I think that is his 8th or 7th pick six, which is pretty unreal. The only real negatives I had from the game was the second quarter offense, where Schottenheimer himself admitted that he was getting a little bit frustrated by some penalties and just the offense not be able to do much, so he tried to do too much. But we kind of struggled to move the ball. We struggled to protect Dak. The offensive line kind of fell apart in the second quarter. But we were able to reel it back in, especially with that last minute drive halftime. So overall, a really good game for the Cowboys. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good performance for the Cowboys. It's something they can build off of, and hopefully they do. Now, looking ahead, the trade deadline is approaching, and in recent weeks, there's been some movement, but I will into that in a second.
Just circling back really quick. I know you mentioned that the O line fell apart, but I was just looking it up, and Dak only took one sack that whole game. So was it more just that there was a lot of pressure in his face and
Yeah, kind of like
okay.
pressure in his face. He was pretty jumpy in the pocket too because of it, so he wasn't really accurate with his throws in the second quarter. But the entire team kind of settled down after that, after halftime. Going back to the trade deadline, some trades have been made recently, such as the Ravens. Just off the top of my head, I know this isn't the most significant one, but the Ravens traded Dofe Owe, I think he's called. Now, today, the day we're recording this podcast, there have been reports that the Cowboys have inquired on Max Crosby. I don't know if I really believe that. This because the Cowboys are always connected to high level talent, especially in the trade deadline, and we usually don't do anything with it.
Trading
It'd
for
also be
Max
really funny.
Crosby after trading away Michael Parsons would also be crazy. Would be a crazy thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. I was just about to get to that. It'd be kind of funny if you trade Micah Parsons away and then you immediately trade for another $40 million defensive end. Though I guess if you can get him for like one first round pick, you can say, oh, well, we traded Micah Parsons for Kenny Clark, a first, and Max Crosby. I don't know if I don't I really I'll see it when I believe. I'll believe it when I see it. Some other positions that I think that the Cowboys should address are the linebacker position and the safety position. Now the Cowboys are getting back some reinforcements in these areas, such as the Marvion Overshone returning from having his practice window opened, and he is currently projected to return to action in Week 11 after a bye week against the Raiders. Some names that have been brought up are Minka Fitzpatrick and Mike and Demario Davis. I think those two would be some decent ads for the team. But reports are is that the Cowboys are looking into making moves. Once again, I'll believe it when I see it, given this team's history. That is all the news and the speculation that has happened recently. Now we can shift over to this upcoming game, which is the Denver Broncos game. Now the Broncos have kind of owned the Cows as of late. Their last win was in 1995. And it's always have been less talented or worse than like Broncos. They've had like the last few matchups. There's been times where the Cows have been favored, and they just got absolutely walloped. But every year every year's a new year, so maybe something can change. Now, Jacob, do you have any thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I've been having this marked as a Broncos loss like since the beginning of the year until last week. So my reasoning was pretty much every time an opponent scores more than like 20 points on us, we lose. It happened against the Colts, it happened against the Chargers, it happened against the Bengals last year. The Broncos do not do well in offensive shootouts, except last week, obviously, against the Giants. That was the best we've seen the Broncos offense probably since like 2013. But
Damn.
I still believe. So I actually have a question. How good is that Cowboys offensive line?
By a lot of metrics, like Dak Prescott actually gets pressured quite a bit. Like they don't take a lot of sacks, but that's me kind of a Dak Prescott stat because he's able to step up in the pocket. He gets rid of the ball pretty fast. Against high level talent, they've struggled a bit. Like the Eagles were getting a lot of pressure against Dak Prescott, and it kind of didn't matter because he was just able to either escape or get the ball out quickly. Also, considering the receivers that the Cowboys have, they usually get open pretty quickly, so Dak Prescott's able to get the ball out fast.
Yeah, okay. So that was my thing because we got like no pressure on Jackson Dart last week. I think Nick Bonito had a total of one pressure, had 0 sacks. He did nothing last week.
Mm-hmm.
They got him to move around in the pocket a little bit, but that just helped him extend the play and find an open receiver and get a first down on like 3rd and long. The and that is how I'm seeing Dak Prescott do against that defense as well, especially since I believe that George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are more talented than the receivers that Jackson Dart was throwing to last week.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly can't remember their names. Besides Theo Johnson, he had a very stupid tip drill touchdown against us. But that's why I just think that we're not going to win this game because I think the Cowboys offense is going to do very well. And I think it's going to once again rely on Bo Nix doing something and Sean Payton not calling screen passes for every single drive. And both of them love to do exactly that. They love screen passes and they never get anything. They get 2 yards and then we're in 3rd and long and we don't get the first down because then it requires Bo Nix to make a high level throw. And he hasn't really been doing that. Bo Nix has been like Tom Brady in the 4th quarter since he's gotten here. And I honestly have no idea why. I don't know why Sean Payton and Bo Nix wait until the 4th quarter to pretend to be a real NFL team. But that was basically just last week personified. I mean, 33 points in the 4th quarter is ridiculous. I don't think that will happen. I don't think we'll go down that badly against the Cowboys, which obviously makes the comeback not necessary. But I don't think we're going to quite see the offensive explosion we saw in the 4th quarter. I think realistically, I see the Cowboys winning this game like 27-20, something along those lines. Unless
You got a lot of faith in the Cowboys defense. You got a lot of faith in the Cowboys.
But I know, but like Bo Nix he loves to not do that well. I don't know. I'm trying to think if we've really played a bad defense up until the Giants. I don't really think we have. So maybe it's just I've been seeing Bo Nix go against like decent defenses to this point, and that's why I've seen so much struggling from the offense. But so yeah, I mean, who knows? I think Bo Nix will be fine. I think the offense will be fine. But I think the Cowboys offense is going to be better. And if the defenders, the 2 safeties, it was Hufanga, and I don't remember the other guy's name, but he's number 22. They stopped each other from getting a game-winning interception twice on the Giants' last drive where they took the lead. And on the second one, the other guy actually got hurt. Yeah, Brandon Jones got hurt. Sorry, his name is Brandon Jones. He got hurt jumping for the ball and hitting his head on Hufunga's like shoulder pad. And it's just stuff like that. And it's just like what are you doing? It's just stuff like that pisses me off with the Broncos. And I think there's going to be more situations like that against the Cowboys. And I really just see this as the Cowboys coming in and they get a win.
You mentioned that you kind of had this game penciled a Broncos loss up until recently. I kind of felt like the same way in like the opposite direction that I had this penciled in as a Cowboys loss going into because we just cannot beat Denver. We haven't beaten them in my lifetime. We haven't been that close in our last 2 matchups. Our team, the defense has struggled both especially on the road. The offense has performed a little worse on the road than compared to at home. But, I think that this isn't a game that I think we can't win. I think that we have a real chance at winning this game. If we can try and force Bo Nix into some mistakes, I think that the offense will obviously do enough to win. It just comes to down if the defense can play at an average level. Then I think if the Cowboys defense plays at an average level, the Cowboys would win like 12. How good their offense is. I do have a question for you, Broncos. Do you think that the Broncos run game is very good, or how do you feel about the Broncos run game?
J.K. Dobbins has he had a very good start to the year. Recently, especially against those two New York teams, the run game wasn't really doing anything. But the first, I want to say 4 weeks, J.K. Dobbins looked very good. I think the Cowboys' run defense, obviously, so much more improved with Kenny Clark.
Yeah.
They, I think they'll be able to hold the Broncos' run game in check. I think it'll be fine. It's nothing spectacular. It's all right. It does help that Bo Nix has an ability to run, so we kind of have that second dimension. But for the most part, it's just kind of average. It's all right.
Yeah, we've struggled a bit defending mobile quarterbacks. Like we struggled to defend Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
Marcus Mariota and Jaden Daniels had 70 yards combined. Some of it was when they were trailing, so there were a lot bigger holes. But the area that for years the Cowboys have struggled. But I think it'll be a pretty good game overall. I think that I'm gonna pick the Cowboys to win, but I think it'll be a pretty good game. If we
yeah,
can get this win on the road against a decent, at least a decent team. I know that they're 5-2, but they've had some questionable performances. If they can get this win on the road, it'd be really impressive, and it would give you your first winning record of the year. And maybe if you win this game, you can maybe make some trades.
yeah. I agree. And yeah, like I said, I had it penciled in as a Cowboys win up until recently. I still have it as a Cowboys win, but it's to me, instead of it being like 75-25, maybe it's more 60-40 for me favoring the Cowboys over the Broncos.
All right. So we both talked for a long. I talked for a long time. Broncos talked for a little bit. Salty, take it away with the Eagles.
All right. So first news is Brandon Graham coming out of retirement to sign back with the Eagles. This the edge group, like I mentioned last week, has been a pretty big issue with the Eagles defense, where they've just been having a lack of pressure from that edge group, and it's was going to become an even bigger problem when Brandon Graham didn't come back because Azeez Ojulari left the game early with a hamstring injury. So it's going to be interesting to see how much he contributes because it is going to be his 16th season in the league. He wasn't bad last season. He did have that injury that kept him out until the Super Bowl, but even then he was playing some pretty good football up until that injury. So it'll just be interesting to see how well he plays, what can contribute to the team, especially since he didn't have training camp and he's missed 7 weeks of the season. But apparently, the reporting is that it's very likely he comes back, starts playing after the bye. So we probably won't get to see him against the Giants. But moving on to the Eagles Vikings games, the Eagles won 28-22 in an incredible performance from Jalen Hurts, where he threw for 300 yards. He had a perfect passer rating for only the third time in Eagles history, and he was just incredible throwing the ball down the field, which has always been one of his biggest strengths as a quarterback. He, especially when throwing with under center play action, which is not something that the Eagles have done a lot this season. I believe that the 79-yard touchdown to Devontae Smith was the first yards that they've gained on an under center play action pass all season. Then had a few more gains like to Devontae Smith for some 20-yarders later on the game. But it's just incredible how the Eagles offense hasn't used the under center play action for a lot this season. But it was very nice to see it against the Vikings finally show up and have incredible dividends.
Yeah, you mentioned 79-yard Devonta Smith play. I was watching the game on Red Zone. I think that those plays worked because of like the Eagles' bad process overall this year, considering how much they've been under center on second down and just ran the ball and ran the ball. So I think it was a second down and 5 when that happened, right?
Yes.
Or around that. So yeah, I think like the Eagles being so predictable finally helped them out because because Petula finally realized, oh, maybe I should throw it here, and nobody else. I don't even think expected it. I think it really helped them there. You were talking about Jalen Hurts. I thought Jalen Hurts played really well. Obviously, statistically, he played really well, and he also made some really high level throws. There was one play in specific where I think in the third quarter, it was right after a big play. The pocket was kind of collapsing on Hurts, but he stood in there. He took a hit, but he delivered like a perfect pass over the middle to Devonta Smith, and that was like a really impressive throw. And he had a lot of really impressive throws. So just a really good game by Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, the reporting actually is that Devontae Smith was the one advocating for that play on the touchdown. So it wasn't even Kevin Patullo. So it's a little hard to like even give the coaching credit for like the adjustments that they made. There's also the fact that Brett Toth was in for Cam Jurgens, who got hurt, who has been historically pretty bad at shotgun snaps. So that might have been an even greater reason why they were forced into under center passing. So it's just even in this game where the offense exploded and had a really good performance, it's a little hard to give credit to the coaching. And also with Hertz's performance, a lot of it was second reaction plays, like he's scrambling on the 3rd and 13 to AJ Brown. That was a scramble. He had another big one to Devontae Smith for 20 plus yards. But yeah, he played one of his best games of his career. It's up there with the 2 Super Bowl performances he's had. But even then, it was still not a very overall consistent performance from the offense. It's very funny to be this excited about how the Eagles offense looks when they still only technically scored 21 points the whole game. They still had 3 straight 3-and-outs after their opening touchdown drive. And it just still overall seems like a very unsynchronized offense where they just have cold stretches where it looks like they can't try move the football at all, especially with the running game, where Saquon has continued to struggle. He had 2.4 yards per carry this game.
Yeah, so I was watching that game alongside with you, and that stretch where the Eagles went 3 straight 3-and-outs. Genuinely, if the Vikings did not have Carson Wentz at quarterback, that might have been an Eagles loss. Carson Wentz was the biggest double agent I've seen playing against his former team. He had the pick six, and then he immediately after he had the throw backwards, and then he had another interception. And that was kind of in that stretch where the Eagles offense wasn't really looking that good. And so, they score there, they get points beyond like field goals in the red zone that they were getting all game. And, maybe they score so many points that the Eagles offense then can't come back from that. So it would definitely, like you said, it wasn't a fantastic performance, but much better than what they've been the past few games.
Yeah, I think it's fair to characterize it as like an incredible Jalen Hurts performance more than an incredible Eagles
Yeah.
offensive performance. Like, yeah, after the second Carson Wentz interception, the Eagles immediately went 3-and-out and had to punt, even though they got set up with really good field position at about midfield. And like I was saying, like the running game still has not looked good at any point in the season. Like I mentioned, Saquon Barkley had 2.4 yards per carry. He's just there haven't been holes in the running game. It's been and it's just hard to have a consistent offense when your running game is that bad. Because Jalen Hurts is not going to have a perfect passer rating every single game. Like he can't. If that's what it took for us to muster up 21 points against this Viking offense, it's still not a particularly good outlook for a consistent offense on a play-to-play basis. And there was also some issues with the coaching because they did have the one drive that got into field goal position and then Jake Elliott missed. But on the play beforehand, the Eagles had a 3rd and 5, where Jalen Hurts at this point was playing incredibly well, and I just don't understand why they ran the football on that 3rd and 5 to then set up a 4th and 5 where Jake Elliott then missed the field goal. And like obviously, Jake Elliott more often than not makes that kick, but it's a very bad decision from Nick Sirianni or Kevin Patullo, whoever has control of that play calling there in that situation. It's just you can't be that conservative in trying to run on 3rd and 5 to set up a tush push maybe like getting 3-4 yards on 3rd down to then get a tush push, especially when your running game has been terrible and there's been no signs of it being good. There was also previously before halftime, the Eagles had a 3rd and 13 with 20 seconds and 2 timeouts at about their own 35, and they just gave up and let the clock run down until halftime. And like in a 6 point game, if the Vikings get any other points or they don't have the pick six from Jalen Hunt, like that's a very big decision where the Eagles just become cowards and decide to just let the clock run out and not do anything at the half, especially when the Vikings got the ball out of the second half. So yeah, overall it was a very promising performance from Hurts. It was good to see that the Eagles offense finally incorporated some under center play action passes and threw the ball downfield. Hurts was 5 for 5 on passes over 20 yards down the field, which has been like his biggest forte, and it's good to see the Eagles leaning into that. But it still wasn't a particularly consistent Eagles offensive performance with those 3 straight 3-and-outs and just only putting up 21 points, even though this is a very tough Brian Flores defense, but like they still haven't played a complete game on offense. But on the defensive side, yeah, a lot of it was benefited by Carson Wentz being the quarterback. The Eagles offense still gave up the Eagles defense still gave up a lot of yardage, but they were able to hold up in the red zone. They only allowed 1 touchdown in the red zone. That play call by Vic Fangio on the pick six was very, very good with the dropout from Jalen Hunt into a passing window and having Zach Bond rush the passer. That definitely tricked Carson Wentz into throwing that interception. But it's still a bit worrying for the Eagles defense to have given up that many yards to Carson Wentz and the Vikings because you don't know how consistent red zone defense is on a week-to-week basis. But at the end of the day, I'm still not that worried about the Eagles defense. It's maybe with Brandon Graham coming in after the bye, the edge rush group is a little bit better. Nolan Smith should also be coming back. Keely Ringo came in for Dory Jackson, who left the game with a concussion. He was okay. Jordan Addison was kind of cooking Quinyon Mitchell a few times, but overall, it was still a pretty decent Eagles defensive performance where they weren't exceptionally bad or good. They just did enough where the Eagles offense was actually able to pull its weight this time and do enough to get them the win. So looking forward to the Giants game where they're playing them for the second time in 3 weeks. It's a lot of the same. The Giants blew the game versus the Broncos, where they had a massive lead going into the fourth quarter and couldn't seal the win. It's not a very good defense still. Their cornerbacks aren't too good. The Eagles should be able to pass it over them. Hopefully they will be able to this time compared to last time they played. The Giants offense has looked better, a lot better with Jackson Dart as a starting quarterback. Their running game has also been pretty good with Cam Scadaboo, and that is worrisome for the Eagles defense because of how they just got gashed in the running game the last time they played on Thursday Night Football. But I'm hopeful that Vic Fangio is capable of scheming up with a better game plan and just having more health with Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell both playing this time compared to last time, where the Eagles defense should look a lot better against the Giants this week. And the Eagles offense, hopefully, they grow and improve from this Vikings performance, and it continues on into the Giants where they start taking more deep shots. Jalen Hurts also played a pretty bad game versus the Giants with that interception and then the overthrow of Devontae Smith that one time, which would have been possibly 2 extra touchdowns on the board. So if Jalen Hurts plays a lot better, hopefully the play calling improves with the use of more under center play action, maybe lean on the run game a little bit less. Just until you figure something out, it's very hard to just trust the running game. So like you can't rely on it that much. But the Eagles should win against the Giants, just like I said last time, and go into the bye at 6-2. But we will see. But moving on to the pick section. For the pick'ems, me and Zekrom both went 14-1. So now Zekrom has a 22-7 record, and I have a 23-6 record on the year for pick'ems.
Thursday Night Football, we have the Vikings visiting the Chargers. The Vikings will still be starting Carson Wentz, while the Chargers are coming off a pretty bad loss at home to the Indianapolis Colts. The Chargers, since starting 3-0, are now 1-3. The Chargers are currently favored to win by 3.5 points as a home favorite. And I do think that the Chargers will be able to come out with the victory. Yeah, I do think that the Chargers' talent will be able to help them get the victory. I don't think that Carson Wentz will do much. He was pretty bad against the Eagles, and on a short week, I don't think he'll be able to bounce back. So I think that I think Justin Herbert will have a great game, and that they'll get the win.
Yeah, I agree. Carson Wentz is not good by any means. At the Chargers, even after that tough loss to the Colts, where I thought it would be a much closer game than it ended up being. The Chargers just have a lot more talent. They have Justin Herbert. Yes, the Brian Flores defense is very good, and that could flummox Herbert and lead him to have a turnover here or there. But just it's hard to trust Carson Wentz to play a good enough game consistently where he can lead the Vikings to a win.
Yeah, I agree. Part of the biggest reason that the game last week with the Chargers and Colts wasn't close was Justin Herbert had a horrible start to that game.
Yeah.
When he finally locked in, they started scoring. They honestly almost came back, kind of. So as long as he can avoid a horrible start like that, I think pretty easily Chargers come out with a win, but it's the Chargers, so it's never easy.
Yeah, I think Herbert had 2 red zone turnovers, so that
he did.
obviously didn't help the case.
The next game is Dolphins Falcons, with the Falcons being 7.5-point favorites. The Falcons should win this one pretty comfortably as well. Bijan Robinson continues to look incredible. Michael Penix has been kind of rough, but he's been serviceable enough where he hasn't completely crushed the Falcons like Tua has done for the Dolphins, where he was just horrendous versus the Browns, throwing 3 interceptions and having multiple fumbles. Mike McDaniels honestly might get fired pretty quickly. It's just the Dolphins are in complete free fall, and the defense is also bad, and it's just the Falcons aren't the greatest team, but compared to the Dolphins, they are more than good enough to beat them.
Yes, I agree. The Falcons need to decide whether they're going to be a good team or not, because right now it really just seems like they can't figure out what they're going to do. They have a pretty good game against the Bills 2 weeks ago, and then they just looked terrible last week against San Francisco. But they're going against who I believe is the 3rd worst team in the league. I don't think they should have any problems winning this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be stunned if Bijan Robinson doesn't cross 100 yards rushing. This Dolphins defense is really, really bad. The Dolphins offense also has not been very good. Uh, and the Falcons defense is also good. So I just think this is a really bad matchup for the Dolphins. They match up poorly against most teams because they're bad. But I think that the Falcons will have um, a pretty good performance. They've been a lot better at home than they have. Um, I think that this will be a pretty easy Falcons victory. I think they'll get ahead early, and Bijan Robinson will just, and Tyler Algier, my favorite player, will go off and lead them to victory.
Next is the Jets and Bengals. The Bengals are currently favored in the spread by 6.5. And there's not too much to say about the Jets. They are just as bad as they always are. Justin Fields might genuinely be the worst quarterback in the league, starting quarterback in the league, I should say. The Joe Flacco trade actually seems like it might work out for the Bengals. He looked pretty good against the Steelers last Thursday. He should have no problems against the Jets. And this should be a big win for the Bengals to get them back at 500, get them a little bit closer to the Steelers, and who knows, looking at the AFC North the rest of the way.
Yeah, I agree. Justin Fields finally got benched versus the Panthers last week, and which was something that I suggested that they should consider doing. And yeah, he just looked awful versus the Panthers, and they finally decided enough is enough and benched him. The Bengals had a pretty impressive win against the Steelers on Thursday Night Football with Joe Flacco. I would say turning back the clock, but he was never that incredible on the Ravens either. So, but Jamar Chase is was incredible as well. I don't know if the Steelers just didn't know that they should cover him because he was just dominating them with 16 catches and 23 targets. But yeah, they should beat the Jets here and get to 500 and hopefully just keep staying alive for when once Joe Burrow comes back from injury, they can hit the ground running and still be alive in the playoff race and sneak in to the playoffs.
All right. I also think that the Bengals will win this game. I don't know if you guys saw, but Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, went off on Justin Fields.
Yeah.
One of the things he said is, look at a head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results. So while supporting his head coach, he's going off on Justin Fields. I can't say he doesn't deserve it. It's just a weird thing for an owner to say. Overall, the Bengals should win this game pretty easily. Hopefully Joe Flacco keeps throwing to Jamar Chase, so I can get some nice fantasy points. But either way, throw to Jamar Chase, don't throw to Jamar Chase. I don't see a way that the Bengals lose this game unless Joe Flacco throws like 5 interceptions. Next, we have the Browns at the Patriots. The Patriots are currently a 6.5 point favorite. Patriots have looked really good to start the year. They just had a dominant victory over the Tennessee Titans. It was a little bit close during the beginning, but then the Patriots pulled away. Struggle a bit at home. They're only 1-2 at home. But I do think that the Patriots will get the victory. The Browns did just get a good victory against the Miami Dolphins. However, it is the Dolphins, and their terrible run defense matched up poorly with the Browns, who have a great run game. So I think that the Patriots will get this victory. Drake May has looked incredible this year, and he looks like the future.
Yeah, so the Browns, do they still have Dylan Gabriel starting at quarterback?
Yes.
I think they do.
Yeah, that is pretty much. I mean, there's really nothing for me to say about the Browns. Ever since they let go of Baker, they haven't done anything with the quarterbacks. And unlike New England, who is now, I mean, they had that brief period with Mac Jones, but they've been able to quickly find a replacement for Tom Brady. Drake May, I truly believe, is going to be a great quarterback, and I think he's going to lead the Patriots to a lot of good things. One team still trying to find its way, the other team on the rise. Patriots should handle this one pretty easily. Get themselves up to 6-2, currently above the Bills in the AFC East now, actually.
Yeah, they had to against them too.
Yeah, all the Browns got going for them is Quinshon Judkins, and that's pretty much it. And Myles Garrett, but he's just wasting away in Cleveland. The Patriots, yeah, Drake May, incredible. Their running game is kind of whatever. Their defense is good enough with Mike Vrabel coaching it. Stephon Diggs continues to look really good. And yeah, the Patriots should very easily win against the Browns. It would be very shocking if they lost. Next game is Giants at Eagles, with the Eagles being favored by 7.5. As I mentioned during the Eagles section, I think the Eagles should win this game. But also, I thought that Thursday Night Football, and then they got blown out. So what do I know?
Like you said, Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell being back are going to be big. I think the Giants are going to be reeling really badly from that choke they just had, and I think the vibes are going to be awful coming into this game, and I think the Eagles they're probably not going to completely blow them out, but I think it's going to be very different from what happened 2 weeks ago on Thursday.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Eagles will get this victory. We've agreed on basically all the picks, but it feels like this has been a really easy slate to predict. I think that the Eagles will win this game. I think that the Eagles will win this game. I think it'll be a pretty easy victory. I'd love to be wrong, but the Giants will be reeling from that pretty full loss. Let's just be frank, and I think that they'll win.
All right, and so the next game is Bills and Panthers. Bills favored 7.5 right now as the road team. The Panthers have actually been kind of interesting. They started off pretty bad, but they've sort of come back as of late. I don't know. Do you guys know the Andy Dalton is playing this game though, isn't he? Isn't Bryce Young out?
Yeah, yes.
So that isn't going to be great for the Panthers. It seems like every time Bryce Young is kind of finally figuring some stuff out, either an injury happens or just the season ends because he figured it out by week 15. But at some point, I mean, he's got to be able to play consistently. But with Andy Dalton playing, I think the Bills are going to win this game. Yeah, I know they just looked very disappointing against the Falcons, but I do not think Andy Dalton is going to beat the Bills. I think the Bills are going to be pretty annoyed. Last week was just their bye week, so they should have had plenty of time to figure out what happened in that Falcons game and be able to come out and take it to the Panthers.
Yeah, I think that the Bills will make some good adjustments during the bye week. Part of me, if Bryce Young was playing, part of me might have been inclined to pick the Panthers because the Panthers have been really good, and the Bills just had that bad road loss to Atlanta Falcons. Alongside that, the Panthers are 3-0 at home, so maybe they have something. They just have good vibes there, I guess maybe. But I do think that the Bills just have way more talent than the Panthers, and they're able to get the victory. I think Josh Allen will bounce back in a big way.
Yeah, I agree. The Panthers have been very surprising with this 4-3 record, but with Andy Dalton starting, it's just the Bills are a much more talented team. Josh Allen should rebound from that performance versus the Falcons, and the Bills defense should also as well. And I think the Bills handedly win this game. The next game is Bears at the Ravens, with the Ravens being favored by 6.5 points. I believe Lamar Jackson is coming back for this game, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to wonder.
That makes sense. I was wondering why the spread was 6.5 if Lamar Jackson was not going to be coming back for this game.
That's also what I was wondering.
Yeah. So I think the Ravens win this game. With Lamar Jackson, they are a much, much, much better team, obviously, than with Cooper Rush starting. it just opens up everything on the offense or on the passing game, and obviously also helps the running game, which should help get Derrick Henry get back going. And the Bears, they have looked a lot more consistent. Their defense has been fairly good, but I just think the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, they'll be rejuvenated and get a win to maybe try to fix this season and sneak back into the playoff race eventually if they can string enough wins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, buddy. I agree. The Ravens, now that Lamar's back, the Bears have looked good, but I think with Lamar coming back, it should be a Ravens win. Maybe he has some rust or something, but the Ravens should be able to come in, finally get a good win, try and get themselves back into the race. It does not help that they're 1-5, but from what I know, their schedule upcoming isn't too difficult. So with Lamar coming back, they might be able to put some wins together. I don't know if the division, I mean, the division's possible, but I don't know if it'll happen. But a wild card spot, definitely possible if they can get everything figured out.
Yeah, they got Bears. This Bears game's then the Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals, and then the Steelers. So yeah, they have a pretty easy stretch here of games.
Yeah, I think I might be missing the tweet, but I think that Pittsburgh is only 4 or 5 games ahead, 4 games ahead, and Baltimore still has 5 division games remaining. So there's plenty of time to catch up for the Ravens. I do think that they'll get this victory at home. I think Lamar Jackson will not just help the offense in general, he'll also help Derrick Henry, who has kind of struggled without him. When Lamar Jackson was playing, Derrick Henry was playing really good. The Ravens defense will also be getting back Roquan Smith. I'm not sure if Paxton will be coming back soon. I think that the Ravens offense will do. The Bears run defense is also kind of bad. So I think that Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson will have a field day. I think they'll be able to control the clock. I think they'll be able to get a lot of yards and scores. So give me the Ravens. Next, we have the 49ers at the Texans are a 1.5 point favorite, which kind of surprised me. I don't know how many people stayed awake for that 9 p.m. Central Time uh game against the Seattle Seahawks, but the Houston Texans might have the worst coached offensive performance of all time. You could predict every single play that the Texans were doing, and it was just so frustrating. Just watching this team, like they were at the goal line like 3 different times and they scored only once. I don't know how you do this. Even though they are the favorite, I will be picking the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers got a big win at home against the Atlanta Falcons. I think that Brock Purdy might be back. He's been out the last couple of weeks, but Mac Jones has been serviceable. Christian McCaffrey is somehow the only healthy 49er. And I think that they'll be able to get the upset, at least according to the spread, against the Texans.
Yeah, I agree. The Texans offense has been terrible, and Nico Collins might not be out next week with a concussion. It's just a very, very, very rough offense. And the defense is good, but the Niners offense can be trusted a lot more versus the Texans defense than the Texans offense can be versus the 49ers defense. And yeah, CMC has been incredible so far this season. The workload that they've given him and the fact that he's remained uninjured so far is really impressive. But yeah, I think the Niners get this win pretty easily against the Texans. It's just that offense is just awful to watch right now. And until that changes, there's just not much reason for optimism for them.
Yeah. I don't know what Vegas is cooking with that spread. That's just like tricking people. I don't know what's going on there. I've actually been very impressed with the Niners' ability to keep winning even with all the injuries. I think that's a testament to Kyle Shanahan, his mastery that he had over the regular season. The Texans, I didn't see much of their game against the Seahawks, but it doesn't sound like it was good. They haven't looked good all year. Give me the 49ers pretty easily in this one. The next game is the Buccaneers and the Saints. The Bucks are favored by 3.5. The Saints, I feel like, are better than the 1-6 record shows, but like not much better. Like if maybe give them a 2-5 or a 3-4. Spencer Rattler has surprisingly, to me, not seemed too bad. I was never high on him. The rest of the team is not really helping him. I think the Bucks are going to come into New Orleans. I think they'll make up for that pretty bad performance against the Lions. Unfortunately, Mike Evans is out, and he's out for a bit, isn't he? Like that's not just
He's
a
out for
1 week
this
injury.
year.
Oh, he's
He's out
out
for
for
the
the
year.
year. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there goes his 1,000-yard streak, but the Bucks should still be able to beat the Saints without Mike Evans and keep up the impressive start they've had to this year.
Yeah, I think that the Bucks will get this win. I think Baker Mayfield desperately needs a bounce back performance. He was really bad against the Lions. He missed a lot of easy reads. He was missing high a bunch. He missed a couple touchdowns. I do think that they're able to get this victory. I've also been impressed with Spencer Rattler. He's seemingly found his connection with Chris Olave, who's had back-to-back good games. I think that the Bucks might be getting back Chris Godwin. I'm not sure. I could just be some insane misinformation, but I do think that the Buccaneers will win this game on the road.
Yeah, I agree. They might also get Bucky Irving back this week, who's been out for the past 2 weeks. The Bucks running game hasn't been very good. It's been a lot of Baker Mayfield shouldering the entire load of the offense. And while Baker is a very good quarterback, he isn't at like that elite tier where he can single-handedly carry the entire offense every single week. But the Saints, yeah, they just Spencer Rattler has looked serviceable, but it's been more like impressive because he's an average quarterback instead of completely awful. Like he hasn't been above average or elite in any sense. And like I keep saying every week, at the end of the day, most teams are going to out talent the Saints, and the Bucks are probably going to be looking at this as an opportunity for a big bounce back after a disappointing loss versus the Lions, and they should win.
So the next game is the Cowboys versus the Broncos. The Broncos are currently a 3.5 point home favorite. Earlier, I think that the Cowboys will win this game. Uh, um, One thing I am hoping to see is Brandon Aubrey trying an NFL record kick. He's going to be in that thin air, so hopefully we can get an attempt. I think that the Cowboys offense will do enough to get this win. I They've shown that they can do it against the best teams, including the Packers and Eagles. They've shown that they can move the ball. They've shown they can score. If it comes down to, I think that the Cowboys defense, with some scheme adjustments, can maybe get a couple stops that help the team, that help the offense. So yeah, give me the Cowboys.
I am gonna pick against Dallas here. I think the Broncos have been good enough throughout the season. They keep coming back in the fourth quarters, like Jacob mentioned earlier. They had 18 points against the Eagles in the fourth quarter, 33 against the Giants. And while the Cowboys' offense is very, very good, that defense is still pretty rough, even after shutting down the Commanders, where I think the Broncos should be able to do enough. Their defense hasn't been the best at times, but I still trust them over the Cowboys defense, and I think the Broncos pull off the win here.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with Salty on this one. I also have the Cowboys coming in and winning. I didn't mention it earlier, but Dre Greenlaw is suspended. I know he's going to appeal it, and there's maybe a chance that he wins. I don't think so. So I'm counting on him not being there for this game. And I mean, that's n- never helpful when you lose a starting linebacker for the defense. I think, like we mentioned earlier, Dak is pretty good at avoiding the pressure. And like we saw with the defense against the Giants, if we're not getting pressure, the secondary is going to let guys get open and they're going to get first downs. They're going to get touchdowns. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to pick the Cowboys.
Last one thing I would like to add: last time George Pickens and Patrick Surtain played, Pickens had a pretty good game, and he forced Surtain into some penalties. And I don't think they have anyone to guard CeeDee Lamb either, so I think it's a really good matchup for the Cowboys passing offense.
The next game is Titans at the Colts, with the Colts being 14.5 point favorites, which is completely fair with how terrible the Titans have been and how incredible the Colts continue to be. Daniel Jones has been a very good game manager. He's done more than enough and excelled in his role with Shane Steichen scheming up the plays. Jonathan Taylor has looked incredible, and if it wasn't for the NFL's bias towards quarterback on the MVP award, honestly, I wouldn't be that surprised if he could be an MVP candidate just just due to his level of play. Tyler Warren has also been an incredible breakout so far this season. And yeah, the Colts should just very easily beat this Titans team, which hasn't done anything so far. They did not get that bump of firing their head coach and getting an interim at all. At Cam Ward, he's looked okay at times. It's very obvious he's a rookie and he struggled. But yeah, the Colts should just easily win this game.
Yeah, I agree. The Titans, very bad, have never recovered from the Vrabel firing. The Colts, a very surprising team coming into this year. But at this point, I really don't think you can even call them a fluke anymore. They've beaten some good teams. They've beaten the Broncos. I don't want to call us super good, but we're a solid team. They beat the Chargers, and that offense, I believe they've scored 30 points in a majority of their games, 30 plus. And I do not see the Titans slowing them down in any way. Honestly, 14 and a half still might not be enough for how much the Colts end up winning this game by.
Yeah, the Colts do have scoring offense in the league. I don't think the Titans have the capabilities. I don't think they have the talent. I don't think they have the coaching to limit that. I expect the Colts to win this game very easily. Um, yeah, the Colts are just gonna win this game. There's not much you can say about it, really. There's not much you can say about it. The Titans are just so bad. They're just so bad. I
Yeah.
mean, it's embarrassing.
So going on to Sunday night football, we have the Packers and Steelers. Packers are favored by 3.5. And I think my pick is going to be a bit unpopular, but I'm going to go with the Steelers. And the reason I'm going to do that is because of the fact that it is early in the season. And like we always see, the Steelers, they start out the beginning of the year, they're very good. They have a couple losses, obviously, like we've seen, but they always manage to make it through the middle of the season ish up to week 10 with only like 2 or 3 losses. And I think that's going to help carry over. The Packers love playing close with every team they play. We saw it with the Browns, we saw it with the Cardinals, we saw it with the Cowboys. I believe the only time they've won by multiple scores was against the Lions in week 1. And so I believe that the Steelers are going to win, but obviously I could see a world where the Packers win. But my pick is going to be the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm also gonna pick the Steelers to win this game. I think that Aaron Rodgers will have a very good revenge game. The Packers, you mentioned that the Packers only won week one by word. They actually did win week two by multiple scores, but after that, it's been close
Oh,
game
okay.
after close game.
Okay,
And they
gotcha.
haven't exactly been, yeah, been against very good competition either last 4 weeks, or yeah, last 4 weeks, I think. So I think that the Packers, uh, eventually against the Steelers always play up to competition as much as they play down to competition. Um, I think that they are still a talented team. I still think that they're a good team. And I think that at home, behind the Steelers crowd, I think that they're able to get a massive victory.
I think the Packers are going to win this game versus Steelers. I know they played it very down to the competition ever since the Lions game. They've kind of been stealing the Steelers' whole flow, playing down to teams. Um, but I just think they're a lot more talented. Jordan Love has continued to look pretty good. The running game has been slowly rebounding. And the defense has been okay. Micah Parsons had a pretty good game last week versus the Cardinals. And while the Steelers have won a lot of games, it's been very similar to past seasons where it's all close games. They just sneak out. And their defense looked horrendous versus the Bengals, where I think the Packers' offense should be able to do more than enough. And the Steelers, at some point or another, fall behind, and the Packers get this win versus them.
So to end the week, we have Monday Night Football. We finally do not have a doubleheader. It is the Commanders at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are currently a massive 10.5. And considering that Jaden Daniels likely won't play, there's no confirmation on whether or not Debo Samuel or Terry McLaurin will play. And considering the Chiefs' recent play, I think this is very fair. I think the Chiefs at home will absolutely dominate this game. Patrick Mahomes is back to an MVP level with Rushy Rice back. So yeah, just give me the Chiefs in a blowout.
I agree. Just this has been a pretty disastrous season so far for the Commanders. Just Jaden Daniel has been out multiple weeks. Terry McLaurin has been out multiple weeks. Debo Samuel has also been out. It's just everything's seemingly falling apart for them. And honestly, you can't really say it was unexpected. It is for Jaden Daniels to be out, but this is a very old roster. This is the oldest roster in the NFL. And just this is what tends to happen when you have a very old team. That was one of the biggest knocks against the Commanders coming into the season, and it has played out exactly like that. And the Chiefs, yeah, they just completely demolished the Raiders last week. Mahomes looks incredible again after a few seasons where he looked somewhat diminished. Rasheed Rice was amazing, and his comeback from suspension. And yeah, the Chiefs should easily have this win here versus the Commanders, especially if Jaden Daniels doesn't play.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. The Chiefs finally look, after the pretty odd and not fantastic start to this year, they finally look like they're back on pace. Mahomes is back. He's got his receiver back. There really shouldn't be any problems for them in this game. The Commanders really need Jaden Daniels to stay healthy if they're even going to have a chance to make a wild card this year. And I think the Chiefs are gonna keep on this impressive streak. I think they'll win the West once again. I don't think I don't think the Chargers or Broncos are gonna stop them.
Every time we think that the Chiefs are gonna fall apart, they just find a way.
Yeah, no, literally.
All right, since we didn't include Jacob's picks in the main picks graphic, I'm going to give a quick rundown of what his picks were for every game. He picked Chargers, Falcons, Bengals, Patriots, Eagles, Bills, Ravens, Niners, Bucks, Cowboys, Colts, Steelers, and Chiefs.
So that is every game this week, and that is it for the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far, a special thank you to Jacob for joining us for this podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys
And
for having me.
Anytime.
Anytime. And and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.